Welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're a motivated professional trying to break into governance, risk, and compliance, better known as GRC, you are exactly where you need to be. Today, we're completely skipping the fluff. No endless theory, no dry academic textbooks. Instead, we're building a strategic 80-20 playbook specifically designed to get you hired in a remote GRC role as fast as humanly possible. We've crunched the hiring data, isolated the exact skills employers are practically begging for, and outline the hands-on projects that will absolutely separate you from the rest of the pack.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We're hitting 5 key areas: the big picture, the 80-20 of GRC, practical real-world application, avoiding common traps, and finally, your step-by-step 30-day action plan. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. The big picture, translating business risk. We have to start by completely redefining what GRC actually looks like out in the wild, far away from those textbooks. Here is the bottom line. GRC is absolutely not just a giant compliance checklist. There's this huge misconception out there that analysts just sit around taking screenshots and checking off boxes because some framework told them to. But real, impactful GRC, it's about business decision-making under constraints. It's looking at a massive business risk or a compliance gap, understanding the trade-offs, and deciding what moves to make within your company's actual constraints. Ultimately, your job is to translate really complex technical gaps into crystal-clear, actionable business decisions.
I love this quote from Gerald Auger over at Simply Cyber because it perfectly nails the mindset shift you need to make. He says, think about going to the doctor. You don't want to sit there and listen to a bunch of complex medical jargon about your x-rays, right? You just want to know, am I in danger and what's the cure? Well, executives operate the exact same way. They don't care about the technical weeds of a specific framework. They want you to diagnose the risk and prescribe the cure in a way they can actually understand. You aren't just an auditor, you're a trusted advisor.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 80-20 of GRC, or what actually gets you hired. Let's see how this builds into our core strategy. Now, this is where things get really interesting. The trap that so many beginners fall into is spending 6 months passively studying frameworks, reading theory, and just hoarding certifications. But here's the secret. Knowledge without evidence is incredibly hard to sell to a hiring manager. Instead, the candidates who actually get hired are the ones building practical proof assets and decision summaries. They show up with demonstrated work that proves they understand how real risk decisions are made. If you want the highest possible return on your time, you need to stop trying to learn everything. Relentlessly focus your energy right here. Our analysis of the hiring market shows that ISO 27001, which is the international standard for InfoSec, shows up in 85% of roles. Risk assessment is right behind it at 82%. Then you have SOC 2, basically the gold standard for cloud data privacy, at 78%, and policy development at 68%. This right here, this is your 20%. If you master these specific frameworks and skills, you're instantly a highly competitive candidate for lucrative roles in SaaS, fintech, and cloud providers.
Knowing that 80-20 rule is great, but now we've got to apply it. Section 3, practical real-world application, building the proof assets.
Instead of just reciting theory, you need to simulate actual real-world work. Based on the data, these are the 5 highest ROI portfolio projects you can possibly build. First up, a SOC 2 audit simulation. This has a massive hiring impact because it proves you can own an audit end-to-end. Second, an ISO 27001 gap analysis to demonstrate certification readiness. Third, an enterprise risk register with over 20 documented risks to show off your judgment. Fourth, a multi-framework control matrix, which proves you're efficient by mapping one control to multiple frameworks. And finally, a tiered vendor risk assessment. Evaluating how safe your third-party partners are is a critical, highly sought-after skill in the real world. This is what hiring managers are literally dying to see from entry-level candidates. A cleanly structured GitHub repository or a nicely organized Notion directory. You want dedicated folders for your SOC 2 simulation, your ISO gap analysis, your risk register, and your compliance dashboards. By hosting all these deliverables publicly, with clear descriptions, and linking them directly on your LinkedIn, you are proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that you can execute the job from day one. And when you're actually doing the work in these projects, you want to structure your findings using this exact 4-step anatomy. This is how the pros do it. Step 1. Condition. What is actually happening right now? Step 2. Criteria. What specific policy or standard is it failing to meet? Step 3. Risk. Why does this matter to the business? What's the worst-case scenario? And Step 4. Recommendation. What is the practical, actionable fix? So, for example, if admin accounts only use passwords, that's your condition. The criteria, Your internal policy requires multi-factor authentication. The risk is total system compromise. And the recommendation is to enforce MFA immediately. It is simple, clear, and incredibly powerful.
Okay, before we set you loose, let's cover Section 4, Avoiding Common Traps. Let's talk about what beginners get wrong so you don't make the same mistakes.
There are a few massive pitfalls that will disqualify you right out of the gate. First, please never pretend you have real professional experience if you're presenting a sample project. Just be honest. Say it's a mock scenario. Hiring managers actually really respect the hustle and initiative. Second, do not make your portfolio too academic. Keep it clear, simple, and business-focused. Third, don't try to boil the ocean and assess every framework in existence. Stick to the high ROI ones like ISO and SOC 2. And finally, think back to that doctor analogy. Do not use overly technical jargon. Always translate the technical gap into business risk.
I need you to burn this term into your brain, proof assets. You aren't just trying to memorize a bunch of definitions so you can pass a multiple-choice exam. You are generating documented evidence, like a detailed gap analysis spreadsheet or a colorful risk heat map that proves you understand how to execute the day-to-day work. Your portfolio is your ultimate proof asset. All right, let's bring it all home with Section 5, your 30-day action plan. This is your hard-hitting, step-by-step sprint for the next month.
Think of this timeline as your exact syllabus. In Week 1, you're going to dive into the SOC2 Trust Services criteria. You'll build a 44 control matrix and a solid evidence collection plan. In Week 2, you're downloading the ISO 27001 Annex A controls and performing a complete gap analysis for a fictional company, tossing in a 12-month implementation roadmap. Week 3 is all about building your enterprise risk register. Get over 20 realistic risks in there and visualize them with a heat map. And finally, Week 4. You're creating a vendor tiering model, wrapping up your assessments and polishing your entire portfolio so it's ready to show off to the world.
So you're probably wondering, what's the actual time commitment for all of this? 55 to 65 hours. That is the total amount of time it will take you over the next 30 days to build out this minimum viable portfolio. It's a sprint, for sure, but dedicating roughly 2 hours a day to this exact 80-20 roadmap, that is what's going to completely separate you from the sea of candidates who only have theoretical knowledge. It is hands down the highest ROI path to getting hired.
We've covered a ton of ground today. The big picture, the vital 80-20 frameworks, those 5 high-impact projects, and your exact 30-day roadmap. You know that GRC is really about making smart business decisions under constraints, and you know that tangible proof assets will beat passive studying every single time. So I want to leave you with one final provocative question. You know the 20% that actually gets results, so what are you building today? Seriously, stop studying passively, open up a blank spreadsheet right now, and start building that first control matrix. You totally got this. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.